Welcome back to another week at DroneDJ, and back to my drone side today with Kirk in his studio. We've got several stories for you.
It's my desk that I made look good.
Kirk's command center. We got several news. To start, actually, one story we promised to cover was the remote ID. It's been since March 17th, so we're a little over a month and a half, right? We do have the updated FAA remote ID compliant list to go through. But before we do that, let's do a quick recap on remote ID. We talked about this several times over the last year, ever since we're inching closer, right, to the remote ID date. And last September was when we saw a extension to allow, I believe at the time, the message was some of the delivery or product availability on some of the drones to make them remote ID compliant, which was part of the reason for the extension. That extension ended March 16th. So officially we have remote ID in force in United States only.
Yeah. So if you're flying out there, you're pretty much now on the hook. If the FAA can, the big question is if the FAA can even enforce it. We'll see if that's like the thing. But yeah, you're technically now supposed to be flying around your drones, all of them with remote ID. So,
and just to share, I opened up FAA's website on remote ID. Recap, we talked about this over the past year. Just a recap on three types of remote ID and what is remote ID. Essentially, remote ID is going to broadcast, right? It's a capability from the drone that's going to broadcast information that can be received by other parties through the signal. And there are three types of remote ID compliance. One is standard, which your drone is built in with a remote ID capability. The second one is if your drone doesn't have one, you can purchase one of those compliant modules and add the module. And then number three is there are locations where you can fly without remote ID, like your mag fields, etc. There are designated locations where you can fly without remote ID. Those are the three options. And the way to look at it is almost like your transponder and on an airplane, essentially. Right? Because obviously visually it's difficult to see exactly where the drone is, what is it doing, and it's difficult for avoidance. But with remote ID, you can see that information. In practice, what information is actually broadcasted? And we talked about this heavily in our previous discussions, which I voiced my concern. If we look at here, standard remote ID messages include serial number of your drone or the session ID, includes location let alone of your actual drone and the height, so your XYZ, right, geographical location. Velocity, so speed, and I wonder if it's vertical speed as well as horizontal speed, and does it show direction, right?
Which up to this point, totally valid. You need to know where your drone is, and then like it's your number that you need to tell the drone. So
right. Then
totally
we
valid.
have let alone, and this is the part where I really have some concern with. Let alone of the control station, meaning your controller. And if that controller is with you, obviously this shows you as a pilot location. Shows if there's any emergency status, which I suspect is at your return to home. System failure, low battery, would they show some of that? Is we still need to see. And the time mark is a remaining battery or your flight time, that's also TBD. And if you're running an automated mission, let's say if I'm serving a field, I'm running an automated mission, is that showing the remaining mission time or is that showing the remaining battery time? Regardless, I mean, overall, from my end, I believe it is an improvement for the industry. It's nice that, we're sharing that information. But on that note, I believe that needs to go on both sides. It's, hey, if I look at the remote ID list and if I search DJI, I can see, let's say, Mini 3 Pro. If a, less than $1,500 drone can have remote ID, then I want to see something similar on the small airplanes. Your single engine, Cessna, Piper, the ones that don't have to have remote ID if they're not in certain airspace, then I want to be able to see them as well as seeing other drones, right? Is that enforcement in place for actual manned airplane?
See, and also, I mean, this is the FAA is pretty much putting a requirement on manufacturers to put the stuff into their drones. Yet there's no equal requirement for manufacturers of aircraft to put the stuff, ADSB or transponder. I mean, transponders is different than ADSB because transponder, I'm not going to see a transponder
Well,
on
transponder is
my
similar
app.
to this. Is you buy a
but
module, right?
That's more for radio. I mean, if I want to see aircraft on my map, I need ADSB out. That's what I need. I don't think a transponder will show up.
You can use flight tracker.
Yeah, I can use flight tracker, but I would like it built in. I don't think DJI apps or any other apps are going to be able to use transponder information. I think they're going to have to use ADSB information.
The Enterprise. So on DJI Enterprise drones, it doesn't show you where the plane is, but it gave me a warning. But when I was flying down close to the airport, it gave me a warning to say manned aircraft nearby, and I looked up, and there was one.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I get that all the time, but I never see the aircraft anyways. But yeah, you get that all the time. But the issue is that that is not a requirement on the manufacturer of Cessnas and Beechcrafts and Learjet or whoever it is. It's a requirement on the pilot to turn it on and maintain it. And if you're in class, it's a class E, I think it is, below a certain altitude, you don't even need to have that on at all. Mm-hmm. So how does that help us if I can't see the plane? Versus,
that's my point too.
Why can't the plane? Why am I thumbs up?
Yeah, I like to see it on both sides, right?
Yeah, it would be nice if FAA just came out and said okay, we are requiring all aircraft manufacturers to build in standard ADSB and force it to be on at all times, no matter where you are, so that all drones and all aircraft can see each other at all times. Because I think that makes sense. Also, then we can talk about. I mean, I think we can talk about the control station, remote control location too, or blue in the face about how bad that is. But at least for I want to see where all aircraft are. So then, because they're going to see where all of my drones are, at all times.
Well, the other question is, do they?
I mean, yeah, I guess if they don't care. I mean, I worked on the consumer side of general aviation for a few years, and there are plenty of pilots out there that do not care about ADSB, do not care about seeing where other planes are. They I have my eyes, and that's all I need, and I don't need maps. I don't need anything.
They can't see drones under them.
Yeah, no, but they don't care. They have their eyes, and they can scan the skies, and that's all they care. What's below them is below them. What's above them is above them. They don't care. And it's that. And the industry is a little there's a section of that industry that just does not care about drones and does not care about anything else, and they just care about that. They just want to fly on the weekends. That's all they want to do. Take their little Cessna on the weekends.
Remote ID, it's a good start. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a
great
start. It doesn't solve all the current problems, but this is a good start. At least making the information available. I still want to see, let's say when we first talked about this, there were a few third-party apps out there that you can just get on your phone, right? And remember, we tested it a couple when you actually went out. Can you actually see the app on your phone? Can you actually see the other drones, and can you see where the pilot was? So again, my main concern is disclosing that pilot information. Again, going back to when a pilot is on the plane, I'm on the ground. Yes, I can see the plane information, but it's not like I can, I'm Superman. I can fly up to the air.
There's not much I can do about it.
Yeah. Right, and vice versa. Those road rages with drivers in the car, at least they're protected in their vehicle. But with the drone pilot, you're so focused on flying the drone, and other people know where you are. And they can potentially, especially if you're in public space, they can choose to come and walk up to you and distract you. Is that safer for you as a pilot?
That's not safe at all. I mean, that's not safe for you as a pilot. It's not safe for people around you, because if you're flying, especially imagine you're flying an FPV drone, right? Yeah, you need to have a observer with you so they can.
And if someone taps on your shoulder, you can really get spooked.
But if your observer is watching the drone, and all of a sudden the person coming up is going right to the person with the goggles, and the observer is watching the drone, not the person coming up to the pilot, and pushes the pilot or does something to stop him from flying. All of a sudden now you have an FPV drone that might go dead on to a bystander and hit them. And now whose fault is that? Is that the pilot's fault, or is that the person who pushed the pilot? I think in current rules, I don't know what you would do about that. It's a pilot's in charge, but he kind of got pushed out of the way, so now he can't really do his job. But remote ID kind of cost this. So, but the good thing about this is that if we want to have a society where we can control we can control controlled airspace better. Where right now, if you're general aviation, if you want to fly into controlled airspace, you have to get permission from a tower to enter certain controlled airspaces. You can't just fly in. At certain points you can, but at most part you can't just fly into controlled airspace. You have
to file with an app, which is not complicated, but you have to file with an app.
But currently in the United States, I know of plenty of circumstances where you just fly. Like I file, if I want to do a Lance operation, I can file with it. But there's nothing that specifically ties my drone to that, and that only that drone can fly in controlled airspace. I can fly that drone. I can fly any of my other 5 or 6 drones in that airspace, and there's nothing that links what drone I use in that. And I think that would be a much safer area where we are closer to general aviation, where you can't even fly in controlled airspace without permission. Your drone
Which brings us to the question of enforcement. And the comment we have here, it does put drones on radar, adding more airspace traffic for air traffic controller operators.
Yeah.
So on this note, I had one scenario last week where one of my instructors, his neighbor was getting his roof replaced, and the roofer came with a drone to inspect and monitor the progress, which was in controlled airspace. And the roofer didn't actually know what he was supposed to do in the controlled airspace. It was a Mavic 3 at the time, which definitely is over 250 grams. So in that case, the thing is, air traffic controller, they can see drones on their radar now. And obviously with the app, they can see which drones actually had authorization to enter. And in other words, they can see non-compliant drones in controlled airspace. Are they enforcing? Is someone going to enforce with that information?
That's the big question, because air traffic controllers are relatively understaffed, and there needs to be a lot of work there with getting them.
Or who's enforcing? If it's not air traffic controller, who's enforcing?
They're always, I know the FAA is always open, and when they open up applications for air traffic controllers, there's always so many, and they're very well paying because there's not a lot of them.
But they're monitoring. They can't go out to the field.
It's their job. It's their job to monitor the airspace. Right. It's their job to monitor the airspace. So if you see drones on there, that's kind of going to be that's the new part of airspace traffic and monitoring it. You're going to see drones on there. But limiting what even flies in that airspace, I think if we can just limit it, because you can't have drone pilots calling into the tower to get permission to enter an airspace. That's just, you can't do that. I mean, you used to be able to do that, but there's just too many drone pilots to generate.
I had to do that for years when we were working with NOTAM, right?
I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's easier. I never did it, but I know I used to be able to do it. I don't know if that's
it's easier now with the app. I'll say it is definitely easier. However, going back to the enforcement side, is who is enforcing this?
That is the biggest question. We don't know who's truly enforcing this, because there's so much confusion between who do you send out? Do you send a local police department? They technically don't have jurisdiction over this. They can tell you to stop. They can tell you to leave certain properties. But they can't necessarily tell you to ground your aircraft unless it's causing public safety on the ground. I guess they could on behalf of the FAA.
That has to be a power that's delegated to local.
Yeah, I don't exactly know legality of who has jurisdiction over that. If the FAA tells local police to go do something, do they just gain that jurisdiction? I don't know, but usually you get you usually get a letter or you get a call or something from the FAA and you're in trouble. That's usually, I think, more how it works afterwards, is after the fact versus in the fact. But remote, it's so complicated to say whether or not remote is good or bad.
Do you know those speed cameras, right? That can capture the vehicle license plate, and then you get a ticket later, right? That says, hey, your vehicle was speeding. You get a lower fine because they can't prove that's you in there. So I wonder with the remote ID, because they can tie it to the serial number of the drone and they can tie it to who registered it. If they can't prove that the registered person was flying it because it's only based on the drone information, but can they, similar to speed cameras, right? Can they issue a fine based on that?
Yeah, it's like that's the legal trouble in the United States for years. Can something that's not a physical person send you, fines and whatnot? Because I think there's laws about you have to be able to confront your accuser or something like that.
The other note,
you can't confront a computer.
I was jokingly saying this earlier. Remember, I said, have you watched those? I think there's a show like Bounty Hunter is a show, right?
Yeah.
So I said, would someone create an app, call it Drone Pilot Hunter?
Drone Pilot Hunter.
They can see the remote ID information. Would they actually go find, non-compliant drone pilots?
Yeah, I've never had an issue out. The only issue I've ever had flying drones is like kids either chasing the drone or wanting to come over and see the screen, which is like it's not I have to usually I feel bad because I'm like yelling at someone else's kid to get away from me or like stop doing something, but I kind of have to. But that's kind of the only issue that I had. I've never run into a problem where someone comes up to me and tells me to stop flying.
I think I shared this story a little while ago. One of my pilot's drone was shot down by an angry neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. And it was fully illegal drone flying at its designated property just above the pool. So we have seen aggressive people approaching my pilots. Shooting it down was one of the most extreme results of that. But we also had pilots who were flying in rural. And neighbors, who knows what they're growing, came up really concerned about the drone spying on them and, called the local police. They did come and check to confirm everything was okay. But still, those had been the encounters we had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So making that easier for people to do that just doesn't seem right. And I feel like I've written about this and people have made complaints about it, but the FAA just didn't really seem to care. About even anything. Like I don't remember if there even was there even a public comment section? I don't even think there even was a public comment. Maybe it was years ago, before I got into the industry. But usually there's a public comment section or something about
that. New regulations. That happens way before it comes in.
Yeah, it must have happened a long time ago. But it just seems like that should have been a no-brainer. Like, hey, maybe we don't share the information of the pilot for pilot safety, or we only
who do you share
that? Yeah, you only share the information with the official.
You can't just allow any free to download or like $10 to download apps on the phone where people can see all the drone pilot information. There's got to be a control of who can see that information.
Yeah. So yeah. The remote ID is a very great thing because I think it's going to make enforcement easier because you're going to be able to track this stuff easier. There's still some loose ends at the like linking remote ID and Lance like together better to where only I can fly certain drones per that authorization. And then of course on the tower side, like I don't know. I would love to actually reach out to a tower because I know control towers are like the most like secure places in the world sometimes. So I would absolutely love to see what an air traffic controller sees when it comes to like drone flights, because I don't know what it looks like and I don't know how to comment on it when I don't know what it looks like. But I feel like this has to make life easier on them if they have an actual set aside like okay, these are drones.
Yeah,
we know what drones look like on the map now. They're like different colors or whatever. And we just don't have to worry about those unless they're.
Remember, there's always learning curve. Right? Yeah. There's always what they start to look like. Everyone has to get through their training. They have to do it consistently. There's also skills retention. So this is not the end of the conversation on remote ID. We did talk about downloading some of the apps and going out to test some more now that remote ID is in place. So stay tuned. We do want to bring updates on remote ID. And if you got stories to share, please share those in the comments below. And we will definitely circle back on your stories too. So along that note, some other news for this week. We have Alarm Blue sUAS 2 updates. So Brink and Skyfire are partnering up to advance drones as first responders. I believe last week was just AOVSI. So definitely there are some more enterprise, at Blue sUAS drones updates, especially at the Commercial UAV Expo.
AVUSI, that was like Exponential, whatever is the also name for it. I see that. Yeah. So there's a lot of news coming out this week on that.
The other news on Blue sUAS is Model AI.
Model AI, yeah, sounds right.
It's another Blue sUAS free manufacturer. So they've released new NDA compliant development drones, which should be interesting as well because this is a free manufacturer. So you get room to play.
Yeah, like I'm assuming that's like kind of like FPVs where you kind of get the frame and you get like the control system, but like you can add on whatever you want to it.
It would be interesting to try, especially if this is FPV based on.
It doesn't look like FPV, but like that's that same idea though.
Similar idea. I remember the days when we were putting parts together, or buying a flight controller somewhere, buying the frame somewhere, the propulsion systems, and you're trying to calculate the motor, almost like when you look at like your tire size, right? Your engine calculation. Like we had to calculate the propeller size and the ESC, the motors, the power distribution.
Make sure you have enough amperage and controlling your power output.
Yeah. There's actually a specific calculator you use, like an electronic calculator you have to use to find out compatibility. It was definitely fun. I do miss those times. I wish I had more time to play with putting parts together. But again, if you're interested, now there is a compliant model available, which should be interesting for people to try out. And last one is I've been trying to find this drone. Apparently, it's not available in Canada on Amazon.ca. But this is DJI's new Mini 4K, which is the newest one to keep it under $300. Previously, the one under $300 was the Mini 2 SE, which was not 4K. So this update brings the Mini 2 SE to 4K, and also it drops the price on Mini 2 SE to right now, I believe it's only $279.
$279 in US, yeah.
In US. So obviously you can't compare this drone to a Mini 4 Pro. Who do you compare with? Probably my guess is those, couple $100 Costco or Amazon toy drones that call themselves, HD or 4K high resolution camera drones.
4K Ultra UHD.
Yes.
For $100.
I happen to have both one just for comparison purposes.
I have a couple. Is it Potenzic or I always forget how you pronounce the name. Not Panasonic, but like Potenzic or whatever, like drones. I have a few of those, and they always claim to be as good and cheaper than DJI, but like they're comparing it to the Pro models, so they're more expensive than the standard minis, and also then like they're only like HD.
I know the ones you're talking about.
They're not. They just. It's like, yes, you're cheaper, but not of the right product, and also your software is not as good, and your flight controls is not as good, and the camera's not as good, and like everything about it's not as good compared to anything that DJI makes. So,
and the couple $100 one I got, there's no gimbal. Yes, it does have.
Yeah, there's no gimbal too. It's just like just tilt up and down. That's all it is.
Yeah, there's no gimbal to it. So watching the video is also terrible. So
actually sometimes they do make for interesting camera shots. It's almost like FPV, but it's not
on a DJI drone you can choose the fixed gimbal mode.
Yes. There's no reason really you need this for that purpose, but if there's going to be a pro, is that sometimes if you want an almost FPV like shot, you can get it every time with this drone because that's the only type of shot.
Without pressing a button on the DJI.
You don't have to change a setting for these drones. It's just that good of quality every time. My
point on this is DJI is really trying to cover the entire market landscape, right? Yeah. From the real entry level all the way to the high end. However, I've seen people flying those little Costco ones. The user experience is so terrible that they don't fly a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They take it out on a super good weather day, like maybe on a family picnic day. They get a few minutes out of it, and that's it.
Now they take it up, take a group photo, then they fly back down.
My question is, with Mini, with DJI's Mini 4K, or even the Mini 2 SE, making it a much better user experience drone, still in the similar price category, would that make the skies, to have more drones because it is easier to fly?
Yeah. I wonder if these have 80s remote ID. If these even have remote ID? Because I don't.
We can
Well, I
find
think
out. So remote
I'm
ID.
assuming.
Oh, on that note, I did have. So if you want to see if your drone is remote ID compatible, here is the FAA list on remote ID compliance. So let's say DJI Mini.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they.
And
It might
this
have,
search is not great. So see if I
yeah,
have
you can't
DJI
even search
without
this
the
mini yet.
space.
Just search. Remove DJI. Just search.
Without the
Oh, there we
space,
go.
it shows up, and so you can only. I wonder if I search just Mini.
That should hopefully
Okay,
Mini
so that
3,
works.
Mini,
That
Mini
works. So we have Mini
3.
3. And by the way, only displays 8 drones per page.
Yeah.
Some of the pages you get to select, right? To say, I want to see like 10, I want to see 50, I want to see 100 per page. I don't see that option here. So, yeah, I do not
I don't
see.
hear you anymore. Do you?
I do not see that option
you
here.
hear me?
So you've really got to go next page. Okay, Mini.
Oh, there we go.
We only saw Mini 3 Pro so far. Mini 4 Pro, and this is not. I don't know what the number. Okay, it's organized by tag number.
Yeah.
You could click on. You can click on the header, and then it will organize it by the make.
Yeah.
Okay, so under DJI, under Mini, we'll only have Mini 3 Pro, Mini 3, Mini 4 Pro. There's no Mini 2 or Mini 4K.
Yeah, because I know there's a certain, if it's somewhere below.
It's below.
If it's below 250, I don't think you actually. I have to double check. If you're below 250, you don't need remote ID. If it's only for recreational purposes, I think.
Correct.
Yeah. So, it makes sense if like the Mini 3, Mini 3 Pro, Mini 4 Pro are all the ones on there because those are the only 3 that I can see.
You have plus batteries.
That I would. One, the Pros have plus batteries go above 250. Also, those are the only 3 mini drones that I could see a professional use case for. Like if you're buying a Mini 2 SE or even the Mini 4K, you're not.
Hey, that's not to say you can't do professional.
I'm not saying you can't do it, especially the Mini 4K. Now it does 4K 6, 4K 30. So like, all right, like you could possibly do some
work. Of your house, or if you're vlogging, you could.
And there is the gray area of social media. Like if you're posting for social media work, like that technically is. That's and if it's monetizable, like you're technically doing it for work, so you technically need a license for it. So I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just those. If you're going to be doing social media work even for that, go get a Mini 3 or Mini 4 Pro because then you can shoot it vertically and it'll be much better. Like those are the 3 you should be using for professional work of the minis. You could use the other minis, but I wouldn't. But it was a very weird release because we didn't really even get a press release for it.
And it's not available in Canada. It was released 4 days ago. I saw.
I double checked my email and like, we didn't get anything from DJI on pre-release. It's not available on. It's not available on the DJI website. Yeah, do Amazon.com versus .ca.
I couldn't do .ca to find it.
Yeah, you might have to change the delivery location to US as well, not Canada. But yeah, Mini 4K right there, $299.
Yeah, right here. Right.
It's not available on DJI's website. I can't find it there. Or maybe it's on the shop. I'm on their normal page. Hold on. Shop.DJI. DJI store, not shop. I totally messed that one up. There we go. I don't. Not on here. DJI Mini.
20% off Mini 3. Let me see if I can.
Mini 4 Pro. Yeah, no, I legit I don't see it on their website. It's only on Amazon. So
and only the US is Amazon.
Yeah, it's only on it's not on Canada, so it's only in US, which is weird because they cost more. And if when you find it, it's under the Mini 2 SE like item. It's like a separate option from the Mini 2 SE, which doesn't really make a lot of sense either. Since the Mini 2 SE, it must be. I wonder if it's just a Mini 2 SE body and like everything with a different camera module put on top. Because all it is, because the Mini 2 SE has, I think, similar flight times and everything, but it's 2.7K versus 4K. So, oh wait, no, they have a different that's a different battery pack, I think, for it too. Hold on.
Hard to say.
No, that's the same. That's the same battery pack. I don't know.
With the
It's
picture
interesting.
taken, the shadow is different.
They took a different shot. Yeah, but I think it seems like it looks like it's like the same body. They just changed the camera module on it. Anyways, I can't really give a review of it because I haven't flown it. But a $300 4K drone from DJI, like, this is going to beat any other 4K mini sub 250 drone on the market. I am confident enough to say that because it's DJI and everyone else is not DJI. So,
well, I do hope to see something that's not DJI.
I would actually, hold on. I think this might now put Autel Nano like completely out of the market. Like,
let's see what Amazon actually. Oh, this one, Potensic Atom, right? I believe that's the one you're referring to.
I think that's the one I have. Yeah.
It is $229, and that's the expansion kit, which does come with two extra batteries.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's almost half the price, right?
I'm gonna look.
Okay, well, along that news, those are all the stories we got for you this week. We did a recap on the remote ID. We talked about a couple of new Blue sUAS updates, and we also have another most affordable DJI drone, the Mini 4K. So that's everything we have for you this week. I'm actually off to running a drone exercise. We're doing it with a property security company. So I'm going to try to use my M30T and see if I can find the perpetrators trying to trespass the property. That should be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that does sound like fun. I want to do something like that.
I'll share this story next week. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.